Discover the joy of baking with the Beginner's Guide to Baking Homemade Bread. Perfect bread made easy. Welcome to the step-by-step guide to baking your own homemade bread. Whether you're a complete beginner or someone who's felt a little intimidated by the idea of baking bread, this tutorial is designed just for you. With a handful of ingredients, a few simple steps, and some patience, you'll have a warm, delicious loaf of bread made completely from scratch. Let's dive in. The beauty of bread baking is its simplicity. You only need 5 basic ingredients. Flour. This is the foundation of the bread and provides its structure. Water, essential for binding the dough and activating the yeast. Yeast. This magical ingredient makes the dough rise by creating air pockets. Sugar, a small amount feeds the yeast and subtly enhances the flavor. Salt, this enhances the taste and controls yeast activity. These simple ingredients likely live in your pantry already, which makes baking bread not only easy, but also very budget-friendly. Before we begin, let's make sure you're equipped with the right tools. For this recipe, you'll need a mixing bowl for combining the ingredients, a kitchen scale or measuring cups for accuracy, a wooden spoon or your hands for mixing the dough, a clean surface for kneading the dough, a baking tray or bread tin for shaping and baking. Optional tools include a dough scraper, a thermometer, and a kitchen towel for covering the dough as it rises. These extras aren't mandatory, but can make the process smoother, especially for beginners. Start by gathering and measuring out the following ingredients. 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of warm water, not hot, just warm to the touch, 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast, about 1 packet, 2 teaspoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt. If you're using active dry yeast, you'll need to activate it first. In a small bowl, combine the warm water, yeast, and sugar and stir it gently. Let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes. You'll know the yeast is ready when it becomes frothy and bubbly. This step is critical because it confirms the yeast is active and will help your bread rise. In your mixing bowl, add the flour and sprinkle the salt around the edges. Salt is essential for flavor but shouldn't come into direct contact with the yeast during mixing, as it can reduce its effectiveness. Make a well in the center and pour in the activated yeast mixture. Gradually mix everything together using a wooden spoon or your hands until it forms a cohesive dough. It will be sticky at this stage, but that's perfectly normal. The key is to mix until the flour is fully incorporated. Now comes the fun part, kneading. Transfer the dough onto a clean, lightly floured surface. Kneading develops gluten, which gives bread its structure and chewiness. To knead, press the dough forward with the heel of your hand, fold it over itself, rotate it by a 1/4 turn, and repeat. Continue this motion for 8 to 10 minutes. At first, the dough will feel sticky and rough, but as you knead, it will become smoother, elastic, and easier to handle. A good test to know if you've kneaded enough is by pressing your finger into the dough. If it springs back slightly, you're done. Proofing is the process of letting the dough rise. It allows the yeast to do its work, creating air pockets for a light and fluffy bread. Place your kneaded dough into a greased bowl, turning it so it's lightly coated in oil. This prevents the dough from sticking and drying out. Cover the bowl with a clean kitchen towel or plastic wrap and let it sit in a warm area for 1 to 2 hours or until it doubles in size. If your kitchen is cold, try placing the dough near a sunny window or inside a preheated oven that's been turned off. To check if the dough is ready, gently press a finger into it. If the indentation remains, it's good to go. After the first rise, gently punch down the dough to release excess air. Remove it from the bowl and place it back onto your lightly floured surface. Shape the dough into the style you prefer. A simple loaf shape is a great option for beginners. To do this, flatten the dough slightly, fold it into thirds like a letter, and roll it into a log. Place it into a greased bread tin or onto a lined baking tray. This will help it maintain its shape during the second rise and baking. Before baking, the dough needs a second, shorter proofing to enhance its texture. Cover the shaped dough again with a towel and let it rise for about 30 to 45 minutes. The dough should look puffier, but doesn't need to double in size this time. To check readiness, press your finger lightly into the dough. It should spring back slightly but still show a faint indentation. Now preheat your oven to 375 degrees for 190 degrees. Preheating is crucial for even baking and gives the bread a nice oven spring in the first few minutes. Before placing the dough in the oven, you can brush the top with water for a crisp crust, milk for a soft sheen, or egg wash for a golden finish. You can also sprinkle flour or score the top with a sharp knife to create a decorative pattern. Place your bread on the middle rack of the oven to ensure even heat distribution. Bake for 25 to 30 minutes or until the top is golden brown. To test if the bread is done, tap the bottom. It should sound hollow. Alternatively, you can use a food thermometer. The internal temperature should read 109 to 200 degrees, 88 to 93 degrees Celsius. Once the bread is out of the oven, transfer it to a wire rack to cool. Cooling allows the interior to set properly, which helps it hold its structure. Although it's tempting, resist the urge to slice into the bread right away. Let it cool for at least 20 to 30 minutes for the best results. Now for the most rewarding part, slicing and eating your homemade bread. Use a serrated bread knife for clean, even cuts. The texture should be soft, fluffy, and slightly chewy. Serve your bread as toast, sandwiches, or simply enjoy it warm with some butter. There's nothing quite as fulfilling or delicious as fresh bread you made yourself. To keep your bread fresh, cover it in a kitchen towel or store it in an airtight container. Avoid refrigerating it, as this can make it dry quickly. If you have leftovers, slice the bread and store it in a freezer-safe bag. That way you can thaw individual slices whenever you want. Congratulations, you've just baked your first loaf of homemade bread. Doesn't it feel amazing? Beyond the delicious aroma and taste, you've learned a rewarding skill that you can build on in the future. Once you're confident with this basic recipe, don't hesitate to experiment with exciting variations, adding herbs, cheese, seeds, or even experimenting with whole wheat or sourdough. Bread baking opens up endless possibilities. Thank you for joining me on this bread baking journey. If you enjoyed this tutorial and found it helpful, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with anyone who's ready to start their own bread making adventure. We'd love to see your results. Share your photos or leave a comment below to let us know how your bread turned out. Stay tuned for more beginner-friendly recipes coming soon. Until then, happy baking.